Hi, it's Kerry again. August 25th, 2024. I'd like to give you my take on the Russia-Ukraine war. Now, in February 22, I was pretty much buying the media's spin, what they were selling. They were telling me Russia was the bad guy, and I was accepting it. I didn't know any better, and I did have one kind of thing that was kind of weird, and that was all your media, Fox, CNN, CBC, overseas media, they all had the same opinion. That, to me, I remember back in 2002 with Iraq. And I thought, why is everybody telling me Iraq has weapons of mass destruction and when nobody's proven it? Yet they all keep telling me it. And they were all wrong, all of them. They're all just trying to send a message to everybody to believe something without any proof. And so I started to wonder what was going on. And I started to come across some people that were very well educated. They got some history in the military. They were in the military in Iraq, Afghanistan, and they know what they're talking about with regards to war. I've never been. I don't. I just observe. And Scott Ritter was one. Colonel Douglas McGregor was another. And I found out a lot of interesting facts in the spring of 2022. Namely that all that stuff was lies in the first few days. The fighter pilot that shot down 5 planes, Russian planes, that was lies. There was a bunch of other things that were lies coming out. So I started to wonder what was going on and gravitated more to these people because I want to find out who's telling the truth. I got all these people, all these networks telling me one thing, and I got a few people telling me something else. And then I'm finding out that the few people telling me something else, they're more right than wrong. They're giving me different information with facts. They're basing it on something. The people in the media, they're not basing it on anything. It's Iraq 2002 again. It's the coronavirus again in the early days. They're telling you what you were supposed to know, and that's it, and you are not supposed to ask questions. I like to ask questions. So what I find out in the spring of 2022, I'm not going to take long on this whole thing because you know all about this too. There was more than one peace deal set up between Russia and Ukraine. Russia would have given Ukraine would have had most of what they had originally, except for Crimea, as their borders, as long as they agreed to certain terms. But those peace deals were scuttled by the U.S. Okay, so you now got war. You got maybe 500,000 Ukrainians that are dead, hundreds of thousands more that are wounded, probably have lost their minds for what they have seen. All because the war had to be continued by the U.S. and NATO. And so it did. And now you get to where it's at now, 2024, August. You got Russia, you got the Kursk the Ukrainians went into Kursk area to try to do something. Nobody quite knows what. And they left their flank on the Donbass open, kind of weak. And Russia's now moving across there quite rapidly now. They're still taking, it's barely, I mean, when you talk about Russians taking, they're taking a mile a day, maybe. You know, it's taken 2 months to go 50 miles inland, but I mean, they are moving inland. So it's not a stalemate like they want to say. They are moving inland. But I'm just kind of wondering where this is going. I'm kind of thinking out, where's this going? Now, clearly Ukraine's not going to win. That's a clear. The U.S. is not going to stop. That's clear. Russia's eventually going to keep going until they get some sort of a deal, peace deal. Now, if they sign a peace deal with the U.S. or Ukraine, they're not going to believe any of it. And you can guarantee the U.S. is not going to live up to it because they never have. They are of no interest whatsoever. That's what where I'm thinking, where my mind's thinking is sooner or later around this election, they're going to be looking at the U.S. to sign something so that they can go to stage 2. Now, originally when the war started, the Americans thought Russia would take Kyiv early. And then after they conquered, the Americans would then turn Ukraine into a terrorist state. Just pinpricks, bombings here and there against the Russian army wherever they can. And I think that plan A is now going to be plan B coming up, which means Russia is going to sign something and maybe think things are okay. Ukraine and the United States and NATO are never going to think that. Never going to accept that. Because they know there's one thing they can easily do, and you're seeing it with these drones. They can easily fly drones into a shopping mall, a schoolyard, a beach, missiles, mortars. They can always fire. Some of these things are very mobile, so you can pop a missile off and then go away in a car. And the missile might be headed towards a beach. And all you have to do, the whole goal could be just nothing more difficult than to disrupt the society in Russia. So people come to a place, I guess Crimea's got a beach. It's a place south with a beach. People like it. It's beautiful. But if you have a drone attack off and on, and you don't know when they're coming, any time of the year, any time of the day or night, people are going to say, I'm not going to go there. And it's going to change the society. And I don't think you can stop that. I don't know how the US or Europe or anybody can stop that if Ukraine wants to keep doing that. And as far as Russia, I don't know how they stop that from happening, because how do you stop that? You'd have to take over the whole country. And they clearly do not want the whole country. They only want certain areas. And so that's where I think this stuff goes. But I don't know what you think. Nobody seems to bring that up. They always think that it's going to be an end game somewhere. And I'd like to know, how are you going to get an end game when the U.S. desperately wants this to continue? I mean, Donald Trump gets into the office. If you're going to stop Ukraine and spending billions of dollars on your military and stop what's going on in Ukraine, you got to have a new war somewhere. Where is that going to go? Because the military-industrial complex, the secret's out. They don't stop wars anymore. Wars are continuous things. Iraq was 15 or 17 years. Afghanistan was 20. They don't want to stop these wars. They don't care if they're winning, losing. They don't care about any of that stuff. To them, it's business of making weapons and getting more and more weapons made. Like all this stuff that the U.S. is sending. Patriot missiles are from the 1980s. The Abrams are the 1990s. The F-16s are from the 70s. And so many others, these things are 10, 15 years old. So the U.S. doesn't care. One thing I learned from various professionals, Douglas McGregor, Scott Ritter, and everybody, and many others, is if you want to take apart weapons, if weapons are too old, you can't just put them on the ground. You got to take them apart. That's time-consuming work. Very expensive, time-consuming work for a military company to do. They don't want to do that. So what they're doing right now is they're getting all these F-16s that are more or less obsolete. They're 1970s, 1980s models. And if they get shot down, then they don't have to tear them apart. If the tanks get destroyed, the Abrams, that's fine. I'm sure there's a new version on the drawing board. They're 30 years old. And even if they need tanks, I don't even know, but the new versions of something are being drawn up. They don't need this stuff. They don't want to have to take it apart and, turn it into scrap. This is so much easier. Get rid of all your junk. It serves a purpose. Getting rid of your enemy. They see the Russians as the enemy. I mean, there's no question. You think they're going to go back to being nice with Russia? You're just crazy. It's not going to happen. Plain and simple. The U.S. broke the world into two groups now. You got the BRICS nations, which are growing, and what we call the West. Europe and the United States and Canada and a few other countries. Korea, Japan. That's it. Australia. That's what you've got now. The BRICS is growing. The other is not. So where's the future? Where do you think? But the U.S. is not going to stop. So if they're not going to stop, this is going to continue. How does it continue? That's what I'd like to know. And I'm not trying to read into the future, but I think that's the thing that's going to be war going on over there for a long time to come. And I really am tired of this Zelensky. When they say president, he's not a president anymore. His term ended in May of 2024. Done. Constitution says he's done. He had to have an election. He's an unelected leader. Call that a military strongman. That would be fine. He's not a president. He's not the president. There is no president right now of Ukraine. And I really feel for the Ukrainian people because Zelensky and the West are killing them all. They're killing the future of Ukraine. Ukrainian civilians who had jobs working in the cities and doing whatever jobs they had, they got thrown into a war that most of the men, the younger men, are gone. Any of the ones that escaped to Europe, they're never coming back. You're going to have to bring them back to Ukraine in chains. There's no way they're coming back willingly. There's just no way. Why would they? What's there? There's nothing there for them. They can meet Western women and have a life in the West. The people in Ukraine, I don't know how you rebuild your culture, your people. It's going to be a Ukrainian person and somebody else to make a couple to get to create a next generation. I mean, it's just so sad that it's being destroyed. And I go look at this Zelensky guy, and he's a mastermind of it. Like Donald Trump is. He's a master salesman. He comes over to the United States, he walks away with $60 billion in weapons every time. And I just wish somehow this would stop. I just don't see how it's going to. I don't see how Russia's going to stop it. I think they could, but I don't know how things work out, the intricate things of the world. I mean, there's a lot more to it than just maps and arrows on a map. But I just think this stuff is going to continue on for a long period of time, and it'll be kind of an underground thing. It'll be out of the newspapers, and you'll hear about something, a railway crash, a train crash, a car crash in Ukraine, killing Russians or something. Something happens on a beach, water's poisoned, whatever. I just think something like that's going to happen, and it's going to keep happening because it's going to be hard as hell to stop. And I hope they can figure something out. It would be nice if cooler heads would prevail, but clearly they're not over in Ukraine and Russia and with the United States. And I really think the United States is really leading this thing. And I think their agenda is the World Economic Forum's agenda, which is the U.S. is under control. The WEF wants Russia, they want Iran, and then their big battle is with China. Russia first. Iran would be hard because Russia's going to help them. Iran can't really help Russia. If you can get to Russia, Iran will fall, and then it's all around China. But again, the world is a strange place. You got BRICS, you got a big country like India. They play both sides, the West and the BRICS all the time. Turkey's now going to play both sides, and there's other countries. All of South America, Latin America, Central America, Africa is more leaning towards the BRICS countries and the Middle East than to the West. The West is really putting themselves, because of the WF, into this hole. I don't know how you get out of this thing. It's a disaster. I really would like to see Russians win, somehow get control of things, and see the WEF lose. They don't seem to lose, and I don't really like things that don't lose. But anyways, let me know what you think. What are your comments? Let me know what you think. If you want to subscribe, like, that'd be great. Pass it around, send it around to your friends. Everything's helpful. Okay, and I am out. Bye now.